Hey guys, welcome back to another video for Zach's Soapbox. This is the video for the week of Friday, August 29th, 2025. I'm your host, I'm Zach. Welcome to my soapbox in my corner of YouTube where I get on the internet, speak my mind, talk about whatever I want to talk about. And then you guys give me a like, comment, share, all that bull crap, and then we go from there. But so this week, what I've got for you is, most of you know by now, and I've talked about it, I'm wheelchair bound. I was born with cerebral palsy. And so what I want to talk about this, because a lot of times when you talk about disability, people often talk about like the things you lost, like never rode a motorcycle, which I have, never rode a bicycle, like all these things that you supposedly miss because you can't walk. Well, but with 21st century technology, YouTube, Instagram, Skype, voice technology, so on and so forth, technology is getting to the point where it's kind of made disability almost a moot point. And so, yeah. But anyways, so everybody always wants to talk about what I've lost as a disabled person, but actually I think I've gained more than I could have ever lost. And in a way, it's almost been a blessing in disguise. So anyways, what I've gained because I'm disabled. The first thing I notice is I have a lot more patience and a lot more fortitude. As a disabled person, when you're learning how to do things, you don't always learn how to do things on the first try. So a lot of times it takes patience to sit there and do it right and learn how to do it and learn your way of doing things. And you're not always gonna, get everything on the first try. Sometimes you out and out fail. But you have to remain persistent because you can't win life laying down, that sort of thing. So it requires a lot more fortitude than most people would have. A lot of people, they try something and then they give up as soon as they don't do it, or, they don't have the patience to sit and be persistent and teach themselves, like, say, a skill on how to do something the way they would do it, adapt to their own disability, that sort of thing. The second thing is I seem to be a lot more empathetic to people who are struggling and people who are down and out. I feel like I'm able to relate to people that face barriers a little bit easier than the average person. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have the same disability, but like, say, I probably am able to empathize more with, say, someone who's on the severe autism spectrum or that is blind or something like that than the average person, because a barrier is a barrier, and I'm able to kind of relate to people that are kind of somewhat downtrodden, you know what I mean? And I'm able to empathize and identify with them. So it makes me a lot more empathetic and able to realize and identify with people's struggles and understand their situations better. That sort of thing. Kind of relates to what I said with the first one. The third thing is a better problem solver. As a disabled person living in a non-disabled world, I'm going to face barriers and challenges. And so then I have to find ways to adapt and, work around my issues and situations. So you become a really good problem solver and almost an asset rather than a liability. That sort of thing. The fourth thing is, like, teach through experience. By advocating for myself, you advocate for others too. Like when I talk about like disability on here, a lot of people, I have assumed that most people watching me are non-disabled people. And so I can teach about disability through relating some of my experiences, the experiences of others, etc., etc. And you can teach people through like acceptance. It makes it more accepted the more you talk about something. So you're able to kind of teach through advocacy, not only for other people, but for yourself first and foremost. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. The fifth thing is more determination and more drive living in a world with barriers. Kind of like I already said, you're not going to give up on the first try. It gives you more persistence and the ability to persevere, and that sort of thing. That, I might face a daily challenge or have some kind of daily struggle, but I don't give up on things easily, that sort of thing. But yeah, I noticed that like when I really want to achieve a goal, I kind of develop tunnel vision to where everything else just kind of gets pushed to the wayside, and then I just focus on that. I have that sort of tendency, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. But that's a personal thing, not necessarily all disabled people. But I notice for me, you know what I mean? When I want to achieve something, I usually always do, no matter what it is. The sixth thing is the ability to think outside the box and come up with unique perspectives, because you're forced to adapt all the time, and everybody's disability is different. Everybody's human experience is different. You're forced to sometimes think outside the box and kind of come up with creative solutions and unique perspectives and that sort of thing. So it makes you a more thoughtful and thought-provoking individual, I notice. I'm not as superficial as most people, where I look at, like, say, somebody's big nose or big ears or something like that. I tend to more look at people deeper and differently. You know what I mean? And it kind of gives you a unique perspective and a unique, because you're forced to adapt and change all the time. You're forced to live in a different type of world and a different type of body. So it's going to create a situation where you have unique perspectives and unique ideas and so on and so forth. The seventh thing is stronger and deeper relationships, be they friendships or romantic relationships or otherwise. I don't befriend many people, but the people that are my friend are people who I would go to bat for, and I know would go to bat for me. I've always been the type that would go for quality of friend rather than quantity of friend, because when you're a friend of everybody, you're really a friend of nobody, because then it places no value on friendship in the first place. So I'd rather have a small group, a handful of friends that are ride or die or good friends, rather than a bunch of fair weather friends or things like that. But so, because people are forced to see past my obvious, we become like a deeper friend, a friend that I know is always there, that sort of thing, that forces you. Or like say you're with somebody and they have to be a little bit, like say a girlfriend, and your girlfriend kind of becomes a quasi caregiver, which I don't really need in my particular situation. Then that person then almost becomes a more intimate partner than just a girlfriend or just a boyfriend, etc., etc. So I noticed that like the friendships and relationships I do have are on a lot of different levels stronger and deeper than most people's. They're not as superficial, you know what I mean? And the eighth and final thing is I think it overall has made me a better person, because of all the things I just mentioned above. It's made me a different type of person. You know, the kind of work ethic it takes to, for say someone in my situation who has cerebral palsy, the kind of work ethic it takes to be able to close a number 2 gripper, which is listed at 195 pounds, which, because I've been dealing with a little bit of tennis elbow, I can't do at the moment, but I can still do a number 1, which is 140. But the kind of persistence it takes to be able to build up that kind of strength, the kind of persistence it takes to, you know, sit on the waiting list for 5 years before you move to Vegas, and then come out to Vegas for 2 years before that, looking at places and looking for places to live, so on and so forth, that persistence and that, you know, fortitude, like I said, kind of makes you a better person. And as, you know, Friedrich Nietzsche once said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I think that that's certainly true, that, you know what I mean? But so I think it overall has made me a better person. I don't have as many friends as the average person, but the friends I do have, I'm a good, loyal friend, and I'm always there for them, to listen, to offer a sympathetic ear, etc., etc. And I know that at least 1 or 2 are there for me, you know what I mean? And so that's all you really need. You don't need a bunch of friends. You need a couple just good friends, you know? And there's an old saying, it says, if you can count on one hand your number of real friends in life, you're doing good, you know? But anyways, guys, those are just some of my thoughts. Feel free to like, comment, and share. Drop some of your thoughts down in the comments. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you found this enjoyable. Hope maybe you learned something, found it thought-provoking. Anyways, guys, have a good weekend, and tune in next week and I will see you then. Later.